February 12, 2020, Berochos Daf Mem 40. Amarav. Tol bruch, in a tzarch levarich. Person's cutting the bread before he's eaten the piece that he cut. And he hands before he eats his piece, he hands a piece to a guest on his table. And he says, take a piece and make a bracha. Or take a piece from what I made a bracha on. Mm-hmm. So that's a little l'chura. He made a bracha, and now he didn't eat the bread, so he's mafsik between the bracha and his eating. He doesn't have to repeat the bracha. Even though normally talking is a hafsaka. For example, somebody talks between putting tefillin shel yad, tefillin shel rosh, he has to bench again.
He washes, he cuts it, and then before he decides to give it to somebody and says, take this and eat this.
Right.
And he doesn't have to wash again? Why?
No, he doesn't know, he doesn't have to make the bracha again. So he made the bracha.
Right.
He washed. Forget about the
he has to wash it. He says to wash it without a bracha, right? Afterwards.
Here the case is, he made the bracha. They're not dealing about the netilas yadayim.
Okay.
Of course, the netilas yadayim he has to have. But he does, here in this case, he doesn't have to go back and make a netilas yadayim because it's not considered a hafsaka. And therefore, even though l'chura, normally you would think, come on. Normally, for example, when you make a bracha, you have to finish the act that you made the bracha on, and if you're mafsik in between, l'chura, you have to go back and make the bracha again. So, for example, yes, if I make a bracha al tkir shofar, and meanwhile I read out the Declaration of Independence, I was mafsik, and therefore I'd have to make the bracha again. Here, though, what happened was, he made the bracha motzi lechem na'aretz, and he cut a piece. And he should have eaten the piece first. But meanwhile, he handed a piece to Maria and said, here, eat it. Eat from the part that I made a bracha on. The answer is, Eino tzarich levarach. It's not considered a hafsaka. Because it's considered part of the subject matter of the bracha. So therefore, like if he started reading the Emancipation Proclamation, so that would be hafsaka. But here, this is still part of the subject matter of what he's doing, so it's not considered hafsaka. However, let's say he made the bracha.
No, so.
Do you want to do your phone?
No, I'll provide it.
But let's say he had made the bracha, and then he realized there wasn't salt on the table. He says, "Oh, bring salt," or let's say there's a dip. Bring the dip, the hummus, so we can dip our bread in it. Tzarech levarich. So according to Rav, that's a hafsaka. However, Rav Yochanan Amar, afilu heviu melach, heviu lifta nami ein tzarech levarich. He holds that's by asking for salt, it's also part of the subject matter of the eating the bread and everything like that. So it's also, you're not being mafsik either. Now, even if he said like this, gvila tori, let's say he made the bracha of a moitzi, and all of a sudden he realizes that the oxen that he owns haven't been fed, and he calls out to his servant, make sure you feed the oxen. Tzarich levarich, that's a hafsaka, because l'chor has nothing to do with the bread, but Rav Shishim, no. I feel a gvul tori nami in tzarich levarich. That's also not hafsaka. A person is forbidden to eat before he makes sure his animals eat. And then only later, so that's the halacha psuka. Says normally the Shulchan Aruch says yoichal miyad v'lo yasich ben bracha l'achila. The primary halacha is that after you make a bracha, you should not speak, and you should eat right away after you made the bracha. V'imsach tzarich la'asur levarich. And if you speak, it's a hafsaka, and you've got to break your bench again. Ela im kein ha'isa sicha b'dvarim ma'anein advarim shevarach l'alav. Unless that which you spoke out has something to do with what you're doing. Kigon. Shabir chalapas, person made a bracha on bread. The korim she'ochel amar eviu melech ulifta. Bring salt or bring hummus, or tnu leplon leechol, tnu meichel lebehema, give the animals. So that means the Shulchan Aruch brings all of these cases of the Gemara. Ukiyot tzvei ein tzarech levarech. So that's not a hafsaka. That's a famous of tol bruch. We know that that's not considered a hafsaka. Says the Ramah, umikol mokem lechatchila lo yafsik klal. The Ramah wants to remind us that lechatchila we should not be mafsik. We shouldn't do it. But in Chanami, if you start talking about something that has nothing to do with anything, like the Declaration of Independence, you're going to have to bench again. That's the guy who had made the bracha and cut the bread, he spoke. But after that, if he ate already, it's not a hefsek. That's the pshat. So, for example, there's the rest of my guests. I don't have to wait for the rest of my guests. Once I eat, I can talk. That's what the Ramah wants to say. I don't have to wait for everybody else. In a sense, once I eat from the bread, everyone's yotze already. Not everybody has to eat from the piece. We spread it out and give it to other people to make the people love the mitzvah. But it's not Mikra Din. Mikra Din, once I eat from the piece, the bracha has been made, the mitzvah's been yotzei and fair take.
They don't have to eat.
Say again?
They don't have
And
to
they don't have to eat from that matzah. They don't have to eat from that challah.
Same with the Kiddush, they don't have to take either.
That's l'chor, it's going to be the same. L'chor, it's going to be the same. We don't even say it, but we'll get to that. Let's leave that open. So, I mean, in previous years, as we've gone through this through Shas many times with our group, I would note, we pass, but we never, to really go from the way we finished here and go here, we see that that's how the Shulchan Aruch Paskin, including all of these things that are included. It doesn't leave anything out. Honor Rav, Bar Shmuel Mishur Mavchia. Ein abotzer r'shay livtzoat shiavo melach or liftam v'nei kolecha v'echad. The botzeya, the one who cuts the bread, should wait till he makes sure that there's salt or the dip in front of each of the mesubim. Rav Bar Shmuel akal bei Reish Galusa. Rav Bar Shmuel went to visit the Reish Galusa. The Reish Galusa was an institution in Bavel. He was called the Exilarch. He was the descendant from Hillel, from the Nesiim, but there's no, and they didn't really have political power like they had in Eretz Yisrael, but they dealt with the Persian kings, and they were usually very wealthy. Afikule rifta, they brought him bread, ubotza lahadei, and he ate. He didn't wait. He did the bitzia right away. He didn't wait, like we just said. I thought you said you have to wait until all the salt is brought out for everybody. Here he did it he benched right. He made the bracha right away and cut it. Amrulay, so they said to him, Hadar Mar Mishmaitza, have you changed your mind? You're going against that original halacha. Amrulu, less din tzarich b'sheish, meaning this bread doesn't need salt. It's good salt. It's good bread, which is salted well. Meaning, so bisman hazeh we don't have this din. That we have to wait before. I got to make sure that there's salt and dip in front of everybody. When the bread was inferior bread, you couldn't really eat it without salt and without something to dip it in. So our halacha is it like this. We don't have to wait. Which is the same Amoira, we're quoting other halachas in his name. Ein mei raglaim kalim elab yeshiva. He says that if a person is going to urinate standing up, it's going to drip and drip and drip, and therefore he's going to be concerned. And therefore you don't evacuate completely. And Chazal were always worried that people are not evacuating completely, could damage themselves inside. So they give you, sit down, you'll be able to evacuate better. But if you have absorbing sand below where you're voiding, then you can stand because you're not going to be concerned because the sand is going to absorb it, so you will let everything out. He says, if you don't have the sand, make sure you're standing on a high place and it's slanted. So you'll know also that the urine will be carried away. It's not going to go on your feet, or it's not going to go on your begadim, and therefore you will empty completely. You're not going to worry. So you don't have to follow this rule about sitting down to urinate. Another vort from the same mandomer. Achar kol achiloscha echol melach. He gives us some medical tips. After whatever you eat, you know what? A good idea is to eat salt. It'll help digest it. Achar kol shasi yesecha. After everything you drink, shasei mayim, drink water. The iatanizik, you'll never be damaged. Tanam hachi, there's a brisa to support this. It says achar kol achiloscha echol melach, achar kol shasiyacha shasei mayim, the iatanizik. So it's a brisa exactly in what Rav Chi had said. Tanya idich, another brisa. Achal kol meichel v'lo achal melach. If a person ate whatever he ate and didn't eat salt afterwards, or shasa kol mashkim lo shasa mayim, beyom yidag min reach hapeh. If he does that in the daytime, it'll lead to bad breath. We need Harold here.
Harold, what do you think here?
Uvalayla yidag min askara. And at night, if he does this, it could lead to like diphtheria.
Yes, what is this here?
It's like askara is where they get a membrane. It's like diphtheria.
Inflammation of the throat.
Right, it's like diphtheria. Torabana. Hamakve achilosu b'mayim. A person who drinks a lot of water when he's eating, that's healthy. Now, we were always taught as children, or at least in my house, I mean, they always didn't want you to drink, right? They wanted you to drink at the end of the meal. Eat your meal.
Doesn't the Rambam say?
Say again?
Doesn't the Rambam say
That what? That you should do it that way?
Yeah, you should, while you eat, you should drink.
So, and then our parents used to tell us that drinking is at the end. But the Gemara says, so I don't know what the Rambam says in terms of general health. Maybe he talks about general health. But the Gemara here is saying that for intestinal health, you should mix your food with a lot of water. How much is a lot? Kama. On Rav Chizda, ketone lapas. Ketone is like a, like a kumkum, like a tea kettle. Yeah. For a pot. Rav Mary, Rav Yechon, Aragel Badoshim. Person eats lentils. Achas Shoshim Yom Askara. If he eats it at least once every 30 days, it'll prevent diphtheria. Mitoch Beso. However, Aval Kol Yom Lo, you shouldn't eat lentils every day. My time, it gives you bad breath. Rav Mary, Rav Yechon, Haragil B'chardol, mustard. Achas Shoshim Yom Chaloi Mitoch Beso. It also prevents illness from his house. Aval Kol Yom Lo. But you shouldn't eat mustard every day. My time, it leads to weakness of the heart. So again, we don't know exactly what kind of disease it's referring to by weakness of the heart, but that's what it says. Like herring, small fish, and if you eat small fish, you don't get intestinal illnesses. It, like pru or vu, it causes for the body to be fruitful, multiply. It's very healthy for the body. And Jews for centuries, especially if they lived in Northern Europe, that they start eating herring and all the small little fish. Those are small little fish, and that was eaten. I'm sure because of this chazal too. On Rav Chama Rav Chanina, Ragel b'ketzach. Ketzach is some kind of some kind of vegetable. Kale.
Fennel.
Fennel. It's a spice. Ain't about the ke'ev lev. You don't get heart pain. Meisvei, we ask a kasher. I'm a ketzach. Echod meshishim samanei amavasu. It's like 1/60th of like poison that leads to death. It seems to imply that ketzach is not healthy. Let's say a person has a silo full of fennel, and you sleep to the east of it, and the wind blows in your direction. Dama Berosho, you're taking your life in your hands. Is basically what Dama Berosho means. How come we have one statement that seems to imply that fennel is good for you, and one statement that fennel is not good for you? Loy kasha. Ha-berecho, then the smell of it is bad. Ha-betamo, but the taste of it is good. If you eat it, it's healthy.
I'm trying to think of an example of something that you shouldn't smell but you're allowed to eat.
something that you shouldn't smell, but is
They
good
don't
to.
get Berochos.
It says it's advising you, saying that the smell leads to illness, but eating it is good. Yeah, that's unusual.
Yeah. I'm trying to think
Yeah,
of
they
another
usually go
thing.
together.
Yeah, or the opposite, maybe you can say, don't eat it, but smell it. Maybe that, that could be,
Here's just the opposite. Here the reich is bad and the eating is good.
yeah.
Amid Rav Yirmiyah,
Talking about herring, delivery.
the mother of Rav Yirmiyah, Afele Rifta, she baked bread, umedafkele, umakafele. She actually would put fennel on the bread and fold it in there, and that was good. She folded it in so people wouldn't smell it, right? But so it would be stuck to the bread, so you could when you ate it, because we just learned eating it
She
is
said
good.
she would peel
But
it
she
off.
folded it, or kilfa means that she scraped it. She scraped it off so that you wouldn't smell it. Rav Yudah Omer Boyer Menei Deshoim. So the Mishnah said that there was a machlokas that on vegetables, the Tanakama said you make a boy pri adama, and according to Rav Yehuda, you would make it you make it like on grasses. Boyer Menei Deshoim. On Rav Zeir Vitem Rav Chanina Bar Papa Ein Halacha Rav Yehuda. Halacha is not like him. Meaning we paskin that make a boy pri adama on vegetables. Om Rav Zeira Vitem Rav Chanina Bar Papa my time Rav Yehuda Omar Kra Baruch Hashem Yom Yom V'chi b'yom Mavachin also v'layla Ein Mavachin. When we only bench Hashem in the day, not at night. And Lo Mencha Kol Yom V'Yom Tein Lo Mein Berchosav. It means every day give Kadosh Baruch Hu the bracha that he deserves that day. I mean, you don't have to mean it's the same bracha every day. And therefore here as well, Hochanami Kol Min V'Min Tein Lo Mein Berchosav. Be as specific as you can regarding the brachos. Don't make a general boy pri adama, anything goes from the ground. No, these are grasses, or they're types of grasses, so be specific. See how Kadosh Baruch Hu is not like a human being. Midas pasuvadam, clay reikon machzik, malena machzik. You have a pot. When it's empty, it fills up. You can put a lot of things in it. If the pot is full already, you can't put anything in it. HaKadosh Baruch Hu works just the opposite. HaKadosh Baruch Hu enokein. Mole machzik. He'll give an example where something is full, then you can fill more in it. Reikon, if it's empty, eno machzik. Shenemar, vayomer im shamoa tishma. So if im shamoa tishma, that means if you have heard already, you can hear more. That means im shamoa tishma. If you've heard and absorbed all my teachings, you'll have more. Vim lav lo tishma. If you don't have anything inside of you, you won't hear anything. Dover acher, another pshat. Im shamoa biyashon. If you've heard old stuff, tishma b'chodesh, you'll understand the new stuff. V'im yifta levavcha. If you've turned your heart away from learning, shuv lo tishma, that you won't hear. So it's a nice sort of distinction made between a Kodesh Baruch Hu and what human.
And these are examples explaining the concept that we can understand what that when a Kodesh Baruch Hu, when it says that Kodesh Baruch Hu, when it's full, he could use it, we can add, but when it's empty, he can't.
He used by filling. Don't think that just because you've been filled up, you can't get more. Just the opposite.
For Kodesh Baruch Hu.
For Kodesh Baruch Hu. For us, and I was thinking, what I was thinking is the story about the Isha Shunamit in that Haftorah, where the wife of Ovadia, right, was poor, and the creditor was knocking on the door. So Elisha told her, bring kalim and start pouring oil, right? As long as she had kalim, right? But once she didn't have any more kalim, the oil stopped. It may have something to do with this, right? Remember, so she all her neighbor, everybody, and she was, she became an oil entrepreneur because she had all this oil to sell. But once there were no more empty kalim, you couldn't pour. She kept on pouring as long as the kalim those kalim started off empty. So it doesn't necessarily fit completely here, but some of the things.
The more a person knows and learns, the more he realizes he doesn't know.
Right, and therefore maybe there's a thirst to know more. Maybe that's how it works.
A person who doesn't know anything figures he knows everything. But a person who knows everything, knows there's much more to learn. He knows like nothing.
Right, and also by having a mole, by having a kli mole, so he's more adept at learning. He's learned a lot, And therefore, he can be filled up with more and more and more because he makes connections between everything he's learned already. So, yeah, you can think.
Did you hear
of
when
stars.
Steinman came out this
Say again?
week? I saw in the Shiva World where Steinman came out. He says the reason there's not, the Talmid Chachamim are not today like they used to be, because they don't learn enough. They used to be in Europe, they would learn 14 to 16 hours a day. They never took breaks, they never vacationed. He said
There's
that.
none of this.
Huh?
They didn't have this.
They did, yeah, they didn't have, right, but he said they were constant, there was no vacations, no summer vacations, no go 14 to 16, that's why you had great Talmid Chachamim, people that really knew. Today you don't have those people.
But why in Eretz Yisrael, you go to places and you see
Few.
people sitting around, that's all they've done.
But not a few,
They're 60 years old, they've never left the yeshiva,
That's
so
true,
you
but
still
they
have,
There's more to them than there ever was.
you'd think so.
But not in.
Maybe not in the
really
quality,
not-
could
no,
be.
not in the individual that learns 14, 16.
But you
That's
think,
what
but
he said,
there
that's
are
what he
places in
said.
Eretz Yisrael where you see,
Yeah, they do that.
you see base medrashim that are full of people and they don't work and, I mean,
But Baruch Hashem, there are kollel today, where you, not many of them, but in order to be accepted, if I'm not mistaken, you have to know Shas.
Okay, but.
I don't want to act
but
the call.
learning- I
You
know,
have
but-
those too.
Okay,
you
but
think, I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if we had, of course, Reb Steinman is trying to, to be more people, to learn more, so, to say, then it says, by the way, the other, so a lot of the Talmidei Chachamim, so they're in high positions, like they're a Rosh Yeshiva or they're Rosh Kollel, and they have to go travel to raise money for their institutions,
right, yeah.
and that affects it. That happened in Europe too, and they complained about it. Rav Vilchanan Wasserman came to America. They weren't happy about all that stuff either. They had no choice. Mishnah. Birich al peres ha'ilon, boy pri adama yotza. So on a fruit from a fruit tree, supposed to make boy pri eitz. Let's say he made a mistake and said boy pri adama. Well, it's also coming from the ground, so you're yotze. We paskin like that. Al peres ha'aretz boy pri eitz lo yotza. Now, if you try to make a boy pri eitz on a vegetable, you're not yotze because it didn't grow from a tree. So you would not yotze. You have to make another bracha, and you made a bracha levatol. However, there's an out. Al kulam imamer shakal niyabidvaro yotza. No matter what, you can make a shakal. Shakal is a general
But
bracha.
it has to be more, it has to be b'diavad. I cannot walk around saying shahakal and everything.
But if they made a mistake
But b'diavad.
and you said a shahakal, you don't have to repeat the bracha. And of course, let's say you don't know what the bracha is, and you don't have Rabbi Google right in front of you or something to know. You could also say a shahakal. Probably better than that. Remember, Safik brakas lahakel is a concept since we learned all brachas are rabbinic except for two, berachas haTorah, berachas hamazon. So all of them are rabbinic. So whenever there's a Safik, so Safik d'oraisa l'chumra. We don't know if this piece of meat is kosher or not. We don't eat it. Okay, but if it's a Safik d'Rabbanan, we do. We can be mekel. Kulas in brachas means don't make the bracha. It means if you don't, for example, I forgot whether I made the bracha or not. The din is you don't say it again, because Safik brachas lacha, we don't make your bracha levatol. So
Bracha vatol is the rice.
well, yeah, Shem Hashem,
Yeah.
Shem Hashem l'shav. So there, but you have to do it with intent. So what I wanted to say though is, so if you didn't know the bracha, but you can't be nenem min adavar, otherwise you're considering goyzel HaKadosh Baruch Hu. So you'd end up probably making a shakal if you really don't know what the bracha is. And we're going to see soon, it covers everything, including bread and yayin. We'll see in a minute. Man Tana de Iker Ilan Arahi. So who is the Tana that's, because we just said, if you make a bracha on a fruit that grows from a tree, boy pri adama, it's okay. Well, where's this concept that a tree is like part of the ground? Oh no, that's by Yitzchak of Yehudi. It's not. So there is a din of bikurim, that the farmer had to take his first fruits. As he saw the fruits bud, as the first fruit came out, he would take we're going to learn another chazal later on, he would take a thread and he would tie it around there, because all of a sudden the tree is going to have hundreds of fruits. How did you know which one is the first one? So the farmers, they would see the first fruit come out, so they would tie.
Thin on him.
They would tie a thread, And that's how they, so the first fruits, there's a din to bring them up to the base of Minish Bikurim. Part of the Bikurim, there was vidui Bikurim. You made a vidui. And so part of the vidui relates to the ground of Eretz Yisrael. Because it's from the ground. So the din is like this. Let's say you have the fruit, but the spring that irrigated that tree dried up. Or nikta se'ilan, even worse. By the time you went to the Yerushalayim with your bikurim, the tree had been chopped down. Are you allowed? So the din is mevi ve'eno kore. You can bring the bikurim, but you don't read this kriya because the kriya says ala dama and whatever. It doesn't exist. Okay. Rav Yehuda says mevi v'kore because he says that ultimately it came from the ground, even though the tree doesn't have, even though the tree's not there anymore, the mayan is not there. The fruit came from the ground. The ground is still there. You can say mena adama, and that's why that's the same time that says if you made a bracha, boyer pri had. If you made a bracha on the Peres Ilan, boy pri adama, because ultimately the tree comes from the ground. That's the sheet of Rabbi Yehuda. But vice versa doesn't work. We said al peros, if you made on a vegetable boy pri eitz, you're not yotzei. Pshita, that's a davar pashut. It's not on eitz, so I knew that I'm not yotzei. Still, there's a chiddush. I don't know if that way it's a kloin. It's Rachel Rabbi Yehuda. The chiddush might be according to Rav Yehuda Domer chita min iloni. Rav Yehuda was of the opinion that wheat, which is a grain, it's a grass, he held it's a kind of a tree. What's this? The Tanya. Ilan she'achul mimenu adam arishon. So the beginning of Bereshis tells us that Adam Arishon in Gan Eden was told not to eat from the Eitz Hadas, and he ate from the Eitz Hadas. Now, what kind of tree was that? So Machlekes Tanoim. Reb Meir Omer Geffen Hayo. He says it was grapes. There's nothing that brings sorrow, more sorrow in the world than wine. We see it today. Because it said, by Noach, Vayesh min hayayin, Vayishkar became drunk. So this is something that leads people astray all the time. Must have been the Geffen, says Reb Meir. But the Chemia Omer Te'eno Haisa. It was a fig tree. Shebedover shniskal klubo niskanu. In fact, the tree that led them into the problem, the chet, so all of a sudden their eyes, they realized they were naked, and what they wore fig leaves. They were told, Vayisperu alei te'ena. So from the very tree that they sinned from, that was the takana. Shenema Vayisperu alei te'ena. Rav Yehuda merchita haisa. No, it was wheat. She'ena tinek yodea likros abba v'ima chiyitom tam dagan. An infant will not say mommy and daddy or abba and ima until he first is fed, cereal, grain, the baby's cereal, whatever, till he's tasted the taste of wheat. And therefore that's what, there's a connection to das. You see already there's intellectual formation with the eating of chita, that must be the Eitz Hadas. So the Gemara wants to say maybe if, according to Rabbi Yehuda, if on grass, if normally I would say boy per adam, I said boy per eitz, maybe according to Rabbi Yehuda, it's okay. Because the wheat is like an elon. That it would work, kamash malon. No, it doesn't work. So the Gemara now is going to give us the geder. What is a tree? I.e., and therefore I would make a ber per eitz on food from that tree. When I take the tree, when I take the fruit, the branch still remains, and there could be future fruit from that branch. That's a boy per eitz kind of tree. But if it's a kind of tree that I take the fruit and the branch is not there, the branch doesn't put any fruit anymore, then that's not a boy per eitz. You say a boy per adama on such a thing. Could be that's why banana is boy pre adama, not a boy pre. It's related to this. I don't know for sure. But this geder, maybe that's why it doesn't fulfill, because of the way the banana tree works. It's not like that. Right? Right.
It has to grow every year. If it's a perennial tree, that's one thing. If it's, you have to grow every year.
Doesn't say, no, there's some fruit trees that don't necessarily produce fruit every year. That's not the geder. This is the geder for bird praise.
Yeah.
This thing about that the branch remains and there will be more fruit coming from that branch. Remember the Mishnah said, on all these things, if you say a shahakol, you're yotzei. It Ravuna Amar chutz bin apasu bin ayayin. Ravuna says, but no. Yayin, boy per gefen, and motzalach ben aretz, it's two, and ma'ula de kabracha, it's not covered by shakol. Rav Yochanan Amar filu pas v'yayin. Rav Yochanan holds a filu pas v'yayin, and just to show you, because I looked it up myself, Shulchan Aruch says, in b'malkam birchas hamotzi birch shakol nebedvoro, or she'amar birch rachman and malkam ara, the ha'ipisa yotza. So your yotze, even if you said shakol on bread. He doesn't bring yayin, but he brings a mitzi. Yayin may be somewhere else. Okay?
But this doesn't tell you.
That's halacha. Yeah, pas v'yayin is also, you can say shahakol. But b'di'evet. It's not
They
lechatchila.
don't tell you the bracha achrita then.
We're not talking about bracha
No,
achrita
but
yet.
if it's pas, you make it shakli, you still have to bench, right?
Yes, you do.
Yeah.
Yes, you do. Nema kitanai. Now let us say that this issue between Rav Huna and Rav Yochanan, who were both Amoraim, maybe was an earlier machlokes tanoim. It says raw pas, person up bread. V'amar kama noah pazu. How beautiful is this bread? Baruch hamakam shebara. Blessed is HaKadosh Baruch Hu who created it. He doesn't say the name Hashem. Yotza. In a sense, that's also a bracha. Ra te'ena v'amar kama noah te'ena zu is a fig. Baruch hamakam shebara yotza de Rab Meir. And Rabbi Yossi Omer Kol HaMishanim Mimad Be'er Shetov HaChacham Berochos L'Yotzei Yechavoso. Rabbi Yossi says no. If Chazal made a matbea, a nusach bracha, whoever changes it, you're not yotzei. So maybe this is the same machlokes as Rav Huna and Rav Yochanan regarding shakol. Name Rav Huna Domer Rav Yossi, right? So that Rav Huna says, if you say shakol, Chazal wanted you to say amotzi. You say shakol, you're meshanem matbea shetov chachamim, and therefore that's why you're not yotzei. Rav Yochanan Domer Rav Meir, that Rav Meir said, you can say anything you want in praising Hashem. So if you said shakol, it would work as well. That's what the Gemara wants to say. But Gemara says no. It's not a machlokes tanoim. Rav Huna, who said that shakol doesn't work by moitze, he can hold like Rav Meir as well. That if a person saw something nice, he could say that I can look Rav Meir hasam elahecha de komad kashmei de pas. You know why? Because he mentioned pas. But when you say shakol nebedvar, you don't say anything about pas. Elahecha de komad kashmei de pas. If Rav Meir moited, then it wouldn't work. That's one thing. And Rav Yochanan will say the other thing. Rav Yochanan, another, I feel Rav Yossi. I hold that you could say shahakol. I hold like Rabbi Yossi as well, that kol ha-mishanim in matbeya, is not matbeya. I'd come like Rabbi Yossi also melem mishum dekomer bracha to lotakin rabbanon. Why did Rabbi Yossi have a problem? That was the guys come around and say, oh, what a beautiful tree that is. Chacham never said anything like that. Aval omer shahakol yemidvor tekin rabbanon. Whatever you want to say, shahakol was a nusach that the Chachamim were matkin. After Rabbi Yossi moideh. Maybe Rav Yossi would be moida as well, that if the person said shakal on pas, Rav Yossi wouldn't have a problem with it. Okay, so the Gemara comes out that you haven't proved there's a machlokes tanoim. So we paskin like Rav Yochanan. Next case. Binyamin Roy, Korach Rifta. Binyamin was a shepherd, and he was going to eat bread, but before he ate bread, he said, "V'amach baruch marei dehai pisa." Blessed is the owner of this bread. On Rav Yotza. Rav says it's okay. So how could he say, okay, if I'm a Rav Kol Bracha she'ein bo Azkaras Hashem ain't a bracha? If you say a blessing without saying the name of Hashem, it's not a bracha. So the Gemara amends what Binyamin had said. Do Amar Brich Rachmana Mar Yedai Pisa. He said Baruch Rachmana is a sort of a Aramaic name for Hashem, the one who has mercy, the owner of this bread. So it fits Rav because he did say name of Hashem. More of Habin and Sholosh Brachos. The Gemara seems to think that this worked even as a bracha achrona. Means after he ate bread, meaning Binyamin Rei Korach Rifta, he ate bread, and then Omar he said this thing. So the Gemara, but it's only one bracha, and after eating bread you're supposed to say shalosh brachos. So my yotza the Komer Rav Nami yotza de bracha rishoina. The bracha rishoina means hazan sakol, means it fulfills the saying of the first bracha of the benching, the first of the three brachas. So my kamash malon, what is the Gemara teaching us here? That afal gav da amr b'lashon chol, because it was Aramaic, right? It wasn't Hebrew. So what are you telling me? That you can say Birchas Hamazon in a foreign language? Tanina. That's already a Mishnah. Therefore, this is not a Chiddush. Elu nemar b'chol lashon. The following things can be said in any language. Parshas Sota. So when a husband is suspicious of his wife, he warned her not to sequester herself into a room alone. He warns her in front of two Eidim. And then the second step happens, two Eidim see her go in a room alone. We don't know what happened in there, right? The din is they can't live together, and and they can live together only if she goes and drinks the Sota waters. Now there's a whole parsha that has to be read. So that can be read in any language. Doesn't have to be read in.
Could it be written in any language? Because the Shem Hashem would be a using G-D. I mean, if you had to spell the name out, that would consider.
Of course it can be. How can you read in that language if it's in Hebrew?
No, but you can, when you write out the ksav for the sota and you put it in the water.
Elu ne'emorim b'chol lashon. This Brisa says these things can be said b'chol lashon. It doesn't say that the ksav, perhaps the ksav had to be written in Hebrew, and let's say they didn't understand it, so they translated it to her, and she said it in a foreign language. Okay? We're going to get to Sota. We'll see the din of can you write in another language. Here it says only ne'emorim. Vidui Meiser, like we said before, Arami Oved Avi. There's a whole vid and Biarti HaKodesh Min Abayis. I gave Meiser Rishon, I gave Meiser Sheni. There's a whole vidui there that you have to say. That you can say in any language. You don't have to say that in Hebrew. Kriya Shema can be said in any language. Tefillah, Shmona Esrei, can be said in any language. Ubirchas Hamazon. So the Gemara says, why did he have to tell me the story of Binyamin the shepherd, who said this bracha in a foreign language? We already have a baraisa that tells me the same thing. Itzrich, we still needed it. Sal kedaitich, I might have thought. Hanimili da amri b'lashon chol. That which you could say, that's kihechet takina rabbanon b'lashon kodesh. Means you have to translate it verbatim. Chazal made a certain nusach in lashon kodesh, and now you translate it into English. But this guy came up with his own thing. Baruch Rachman Amrei Da'ai. It had nothing to do with what Chazal said. I would have thought maybe it doesn't fulfill anything. Kamashman that it fulfills, and all he has to do is make two other brachas, the noida, and the other it fulfills the first bracha. Okay, Gufa. We mentioned this in passing. Now we're going to go into it in detail. Amar Rav, kol bracha she'ein bo azkaras Hashem ain't a bracha. Without the name of Hashem, it's not a bracha. Rav Yochanan, kol bracha she'ein bo malchus ain't a bracha. He says it's not just the name of Hashem. It has to have the word malchus in it. Like we say, Baruch Atah Hashem, melech ha'olam. Amar Rabbi, kavosei derav mistavra. The street of Rav seems to make logic. The Tanya lo avarti mimitzosecha v'lo shachachti. This is part of the vidui meiser. Lo avarti milvarechacha. I wasn't over that I didn't bench you. V'lo shachachti milaskir shmecha. And I didn't forget not to mention your name. V'lo malchus lo ketoni doesn't say anything about malchus. But Rav Yochanan Tani, he learns it this way. The din is we paskin like Rav Yochanan, that you have to do it b'shem u'malchus in order for it to be a full-fledged bracha. Mishnah. Val davar shein gidulam min haaretz. So some things don't grow from the ground. Eggs, milk, cheese, meat, mushrooms. We'll see in a minute. And kigun basar, behemoth chayas, right? Psar behemoth chayas v'oifos, right? The meat of a behemoth. Chaya. Chaya is a wild animal. The only relevant one for us is deer. We don't really eat many other chayas. There are others that can be eaten, but in general, it's the most common one. The other behemoths are domesticated. We don't have many of those either. Cows, goats, sheep. That's about it, right? Oifois, right? All the birds. All birds are kosher, except the ones that are mentioned in the parshios there. You know, the atalef and the bat and the other birds there. Now, the shoichtim, in order for us to eat a bird, you have to have a mesorah from their rebbe or their whoever taught them.
The whole talk about
That's-
turkey. The whole
That's
talk.
why there was no mesorah. The only reason we eat turkey today, Rav Hershel Schachter today still doesn't eat turkey, because people had eaten it for 200 years. They couldn't stop. It wasn't something that if they made it gzer, nobody would hold by it. But El Chanami, there had to be, and that's why there are these su'udas every 10 years. I attended one at Prime Grill maybe 20 years ago with my son, where they served 18 or 19 different dishes. So there would be a mesorah. We ate quail, we ate yak. It was, and then they brought all sorts of Tamei Chachamim out, and they gave shiurim between, and it was like 30 years ago at Levana in New York. It was the same thing. It was every period, either the OU sponsors it or someone sponsors it to keep this mesorah going regarding, that's how they do it. But mainly the shoichtim learn it from there, whoever taught them, and etc. Vidogim, right? Oimer shakolim bidvoro. Ala cholav, ala beitzim, ala gvina, right? Milk, eggs, cheese, oimer shakol. But not just that, ala pat she'ofsha. You have bread, and it's sort of it's you'd still eat it, but it's like gone bad a little bit. Velayayin shehikrim, or wine that like coagulating, or la tavshil shovat, you burnt the chulent. But you still want to eat it. Oimer shahakol. So you don't say the bracha that you would normally say. Let's say it's a boy name is because there's kemach in it, or yayin, or bread. You reduce the bracha to shahakol. Ala melach, salt. Vel azomis is like brine. Val kmeinu pitris, it's mushrooms. Oimer shahakol. I'm sorry. I you know what? I went into the Gemara. I jumped from the Mishnah. Back to the Mishnah. Ala choimetz, vinegar vala noivlois. Noivlois we're going to see are dates that either like they got sat in the sun and they got burnt a little bit. Vala govai. Govai is grasshoppers. Grasshoppers are kosher. By the way, at that Suda they had the kosher grasshoppers. It's very interesting. It has a chet on it, from the word chagav. No, I mean, if you look at the stomach of these grasshoppers, there's a chet there. That's how they're built. And we, the Ashkenazim, we don't eat grasshoppers. We don't have the mesorah. The Moroccans ate grasshoppers. Eli Marciano still remembers when he was a boy that they would have locust things and they knew which ones were kosher and then they would sell them. Okay? All Meshakolim Var.
I think I lost my appetite.
Breaded locusts, that's it.
Rav Yudah Kol Shumin Klala. Now, since a locust swarm, in many places in Tanakh, it refers to it as like a klala, like Hashem is going to send a locust swarm. So you don't make brachas on min klala. Ein mevarchim alav. And he's going to say like this, like for example, according to Rabbi Yehuda, if the wine becomes vinegar, so it's a klala, so you don't make a bracha on it.
So, but the more we just learned.
Well, hang on, but I went ahead. Let's just finish the Mishnah. That's the halacha. Then it says, Hayalufon of Minin Harbe. They used to test future chasanim when somebody wanted to read a shidduch with somebody. So they would invite the prospective young man, and the father would put out a whole bunch of different fruits, And they wanted to see if he knew these dinim of kedima by brachas. So if you have min in harbi, read Omer im yesh beinehem min shiva, all of them are. So one of the kedima laws is the shava minim, chita so'ira gefen tein v'rim on all of those. So those, even though you make a boy per eitz, and then you have, let's say, an apple or a pear, you should eat a date first. Make the bracha, but you should eat the date first. Then you can eat the other fruit. The Chachamim disagree. Says, nah, there's no kedima. It's based on what you want to eat. Ton Rabban. Al davar shekidu ma'aretz kagon sar behemas chayes v'ois v'svudogim oimer shakol yivaro. Ala cholav ala beitzim v'la gvino oimer shakol ala pasha of shaval yan shehikrim ala tafshel shovet zeroso oimer shakol. Al melech lazavis v'la kmenu v'truas oimer shakol. Frank the Gemara, the Meimer to kmenu v'truas lav gidu lekarkanin. So what? Mushrooms, they look like they're growing from the ground, but they're not from the ground. Vatanya. And I'll show you that they are growing from the ground. Hanoider mipeirosaris. Person makes a net there. Says, I'm not going to eat any fruits from the ground. Osir b'perosaris, umuter b'kmeno pitrios. He's allowed to eat because they don't grow from the ground. However, im omar kol gidulei karka, anything that grows from the ground, alai asur afkmeno pitrios. That netter would prohibit mushrooms, which seems to imply that they are gidulei karka. So why do we say make a shakol? There should be some bracha regarding Adama. Amra Abaya, Mirvu Ravu Me'ara. Yeah, they populate there, but min kilo, they don't get their nourishment. They're parasites. They get it from somewhere else. V'hal, davar shekidu me'aretz ktani. Gidulo means growing, and that marbe rabbi is like gedule. So you have to amend that price, and you have to say, anything that doesn't get nourishment from the ground. And since mushrooms don't get nourishment from the ground, you would not make a bracha that connects them to the ground.
So what's the bracha?
Shakol
It is shakol.
on mushrooms.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Mushroom is not a, what's it called in English? Fungus, what's it called?
Yeah, fungus.
Right.
Fungus in the ground.
But it doesn't get its nourishment. It's not. It's unique. It's not from the ground. It's unique. It's not from the ground. Now we rarely just eat a mushroom. But I guess if you were going to do that, let's say they serve these big mushrooms.
Yeah,
Yes.
those mushroom steaks or whatever.
Yeah, then you'd have to make a shakol. But usually it's in rice
Right.
with mushrooms, or or
Like it added
it's put, or vala noivlois.
Portobello ones.
Yeah, the big mushroom. Then we said vala noivlois. We said are dates that also are not perfect. They've been. We'll see what there's machloikas. My noivlois. Rav Zev Rabbi Loi Chadam Rabushlei Kmara, that they were baked in the sun more than they should have. V'chadam are tamri dezika. No, they were blown off the tree by the wind. It's not. We don't know. Rabbi Yehuda Koshu min klala. Now, Rabbi Yehuda brought in our mission that if something is considered like a curse, we don't make a bracha b'chlal. Ein mevarch l'lav. So Bishmal mandam Rabushlei Kmara. These dates that have been burned, hainu dekorle min klala. Fine. So that I understand why Rabbi Yehuda would, and that's why, because he mentioned on noivlois we wouldn't make a bracha because it's a klala. That would work. Elomando bartami dezika, but just the wind blowing fruit off the tree, well, that happens all the time. That's not a klala. My min klala. So asha'ara ikka. Rabbi Yehuda wasn't talking about noivlois. He was talking about other things like the grasshoppers and the other things that are achoimet when wine turns to vinegar. That we certainly have many chazalim that was a bad omen, right? If your wine turned to vinegar, but it's not. So that's going on those things, but not on the noivlois, according to this.
We
pshat.
would not make a bracha.
No, Rabbi Yehuda said, according to the mandama that says that noivlois are dates that are blown off the trees, but that's not min klalos. So even Rabbi Yehuda would hold that you'd make a regular bracha for those dates. But the min klala would be grasshoppers and vinegar, where you would make no bracha. So that's one version. Ikad the Amri of this debate is like this. I understand, according to the pshat that explains novlas to mean dates that were baked in the sun too long. You make a shahakol on them because it's still a date. I understand. A date is a fruit. Why aren't we saying boy prahates? I mean, if it's just blown off the wind, it's regular boy prahates. Levruche. Ella, so the Gemara understands like this. Regular noivlois are these ones that are baked in the sun, and that's why you can't make a beer prahates. You have to say shakel because they're not fully the way we want the date to be. Keep pligi b'noivlois tomorrow. What's noivlois tomorrow? Does not. Hakalin shebid mai. Now, the mai is produce that you buy from an Amma Aretz, where you're not sure whether he gave maestros and trumas and maestros from it. So the din is you have to separate maestros from it again as a suffix before you eat it. There are some products that you don't have to do it, and that's the kalin. There's the leniencies. Shisin, rimin, uzraden. We're going to explain all this stuff. No suach, no sikma, gufni, nitzvah, v'noivlos tomorrow. And that's where the argument is going to be, but what are noivlos tomorrow? Now, and stay with me in the English. Shisin amar Rav Baruch Rav Yochanan, min te'enim. He says that shisin are a type of figs. Rimin, kande. Rashi says,
Lotus.
huh?
Date like fruit, lotus.
Lotus?
L-O-T-U-S.
Okay. And then ha'uzradin tulshi. Rashi says kulmasi. What do they give an English word for that, tulsi?
Which word?
No, it says ha'uzradin is tulshi. Which Rashi doesn't know what is this. It says kulmasi.
It doesn't say.
Okay. But no suach, amra v'rachon te'eni, it's white figs. But no sikma, Rav Barchan, Rav Yochanan, duvli, gufni. Sorry, duvli. What does he say that is?
No.
Huh?
It's
No, that's white figs.
Yeah,
But no shikma is from a sycamore.
Doesn't say
The Rav Yochanan duvli. Rashi doesn't say anything.
sycamore figs.
Sycamore.
They're talking about
Then
not-
shili
not
gufnin.
valued fruits.
Gufni nitzvah parcha.
Late season grapes.
Grapes. And then noivlois tomorrow. What's that? Rabbi Loiv Rav Zera, Chadamar bushlik. One of these dates that have been baked in the sun. Chadamar tamid zika, dates that were blown off a tree. Bishmal under bushlik kamraina diktani hakan shalmai. Since they're more lenient because they're not really full fruit. So sveikenu, it's a suffix. And sveikenu the potter. Havadoin chayiv. It's only a suffix if they were that they would be potter. But the vadoin, you'd have to give trumas and maizos. Elamand amar tamid zika blown off the tree. So vadoin chayiv, we wouldn't be chayiv in that case because hefker ninu. See, trees that are blown off the tree, it's like leket shechal, but anybody can take them. And there certainly there would be no trumas and maizos. So the Gemara says that's a case where they blew off the tree and then you piled them up into a pile. That means even though normally those things are exempt, they're like tax exempt. Means things that you've already, you don't have to give taxes on
But
it.
if they pile them up-
But if you pile them up, now you're koiveya to meiser, and you'd have to give meiser, and that's why he says that there's a din of chayav if they're fun. Okay.
Go ahead.